Okay, so I need to tell you about something I noticed that I genuinely did not expect. I was scrolling through recent game releases, recent animated content, recent brand campaigns, the kind of browsing I do when I'm trying to stay current on where the visual landscape is moving. And I kept stopping on the same type of work. Not the hyperrealistic stuff, not the technically jaw-dropping photorealism that the industry has been chasing for the last decade. The stuff I kept stopping on was simpler, cleaner, deliberately imperfect in a way that felt intentional and confident rather than technically limited. Stylized 3D, low-poly aesthetics, flat shading, bold colors, forms that prioritize feeling over fidelity. And here's what got me. A lot of this work was not coming from indie developers or students doing the best they could with limited resources. It was coming from established studios, real brands, content creators with genuine audiences, people who could have made photorealistic work and deliberately chose not to, which means this isn't a budget compromise. It's a creative choice. And that distinction matters more than most people realize. Because for years, and I mean years, the prevailing narrative in the 3D community has been that stylized work and low-poly aesthetics were stepping stones. Things you did when your skills weren't developed enough for realism. Things that were acceptable early in your career, but that you were supposed to eventually graduate from toward photorealism. That narrative has always been wrong. But right now, in 2026, it's more wrong than it's ever been. And the artists who understand why, who understand what's actually driving the shift and what it means for the market, are sitting on a genuine career opportunity that the realism or bust crowd is walking right past. Here's what this video is going to do. I'm going to explain exactly what's driving the resurgence of stylized 3D and low-poly aesthetics, not as a guess, but specifically based on what's actually happening in the market. I'm going to show you where the real commercial demand for this type of work exists right now. I'll give you a clear picture of what makes stylized 3D actually hard. Because there's a persistent myth that stylized work is somehow easier than realistic work, and that myth is both wrong and harmful to how artists value themselves. And I'll give you specific, actionable information about where to build a portfolio and career in this space if it's the direction that genuinely excites you. No, Stylized is back. Hype without substance. Just the honest, specific picture. Before we get into what's driving the resurgence, I want to address the question in the title directly. Is low-poly art dead? No, but it did go through something that looked like death from the outside and is important to understand. Because what happened to low-poly specifically, and to stylized 3D more broadly, over the last 10 to 15 years is not a story about a style that ran out of relevance. It's a story about a style that got associated with the wrong thing. Here's what I mean. Low-poly emerged as an aesthetic in an era when it was technically necessary. Polygon budgets in early 3D games were genuinely limited. The low-poly look wasn't chosen, it was required. And the industry absorbed that association. Low-poly became shorthand for technical limitation. For, we would have made it more detailed if we could. Here's what I mean. Low-poly emerged as an aesthetic in an era when it was technically necessary. Polygon budgets in early 3D games were genuinely limited. The low-poly look wasn't chosen, it was required. And the industry absorbed that association. Low-poly became shorthand for technical limitation. For, we would have made it more detailed if we could. And then rendering capability and hardware improved, and suddenly you could make things more detailed. And a lot of the industry concluded, great, now we don't have to do the low-poly thing anymore. Now we can do it properly. But here's what that narrative misses completely, and what explains almost everything about what's happening right now in stylized 3D. A style that started as a limitation doesn't become valuable again when people decide limitations are cool. It becomes valuable again when artists start using it as a deliberate choice, when the aesthetic is pursued because of what it can communicate, not despite what it can't render. When the work itself demonstrates that the artist fully understood photorealism was an option and chose something else. That shift from limitation to deliberate voice is what I want to show you, because it changes everything about what stylized 3D work can command commercially. Let me be specific about the forces genuinely pushing this shift. Because nostalgia and the aesthetic is popular again are the surface-level explanations, and they're not wrong, but they're not the whole story. We have reached a point in the 3D industry where photorealism is technically accessible to a genuinely large number of artists. The tools are better, the tutorials are everywhere, the render engines are more powerful, which means the supply of photorealistic 3D content has increased dramatically. When the supply of something increases significantly, its ability to stand out decreases. Photorealistic 3D was genuinely rare and impressive 15 years ago. Now it's everywhere, and things that are everywhere do not stop the scroll. Things that feel distinct, that have a voice, a point of view, a deliberate aesthetic do. Stylized 3D stands out precisely because the visual landscape around it is full of things trying to look real. The distinctiveness is doing real commercial work. This is one that most 3D artists haven't fully thought through. A significant number of brands, particularly consumer brands targeting younger audiences, have moved away from the aspirational visual language that dominated marketing for decades. They've moved towards something warmer, more human, less polished in a way that feels like corporate perfection. Stylized illustration and stylized 3D fits this appetite perfectly. It signals handmade. It signals creative intention. It signals that a human made a choice about how this should look, rather than a machine optimized it toward maximum visual accuracy. That brand appetite is real, and it's backed by budget. The game industry, which is one of the largest consumers of 3D art, has been through a significant philosophical shift about aesthetics and longevity. The observation is simple. Games that were photorealistic 10 years ago look dated now. Games that had a strong, distinctive, stylized aesthetic from the same era still look intentional and good. Studios and developers have noticed this. A game that ages visually is a game that looks worse every year relative to what players can experience elsewhere. A game with a genuine, distinctive visual style maintains its value over time because it's not competing with technical capability. It's offering something that technical capability can't replicate. This is producing a genuine appetite at the studio level for artists who understand strong, stylized aesthetics and can apply them consistently. Undertale, Cuphead, Hollow Knight, Disco Elysium, Hades, the most critically acclaimed, most commercially successful indie games of the last decade have been almost universally stylized. Not because they couldn't afford photorealism, because their visual identity was inseparable from what they were. And this has done something important culturally. It has permanently broken the association between stylized art and not good enough. Players who grew up on these games do not associate clean lines and bold colors with budget limitations. They associate them with artistic intention. That's a fundamental shift in how the audience reads visual style. Okay, let's get specific about where this appetite translates into actual money for artists. Games, obviously, but more specifically than you think. The indie game market is large and growing, and stylized art is dominant within it. But beyond indie, specifically mobile gaming, which is an enormous market by revenue, has almost always preferred stylized aesthetics for a combination of technical performance reasons and audience preference reasons. The demand for quality stylized art in mobile games is consistent, volume-driven, and relatively accessible for artists without studio connections. Hyper-casual and casual games are worth specifically naming here. The visual demands are high on style consistency and low on technical complexity, which means the skill that matters most is not polygon mastery, but aesthetic judgment and the ability to maintain a consistent visual voice across a large volume of assets. Brand and marketing bigger than most artists expect. The brand appetite for stylized 3D has grown considerably. Think about the use cases. Animated explainer content that needs to feel approachable rather than clinical. Social media content that needs to stop the scroll rather than blend in. product presentations for brands that want to signal creativity and playfulness rather than corporate precision. Motion graphics, where a distinctive look reinforces brand identity. These are not fringe applications. These are mainstream marketing uses that brands allocate real budgets toward. Children's media and education. This is a market that never really embraced photorealism to begin with, for obvious reasons: warmth, safety, emotional accessibility. Stylized 3D in children's animation, educational apps, picture books, and their digital equivalents, learning games. This market is large, consistent, and underserved by artists who have spent most of their portfolio development chasing realism. Motion graphics and title sequences. The boundary between 2D motion design and stylized 3D has been increasingly blurred over the last 5 years. Title sequences, broadcast graphics, opening sequences for podcasts and YouTube shows, brand animations. An enormous amount of this work uses stylized 3D elements integrated with motion design. The artists who can operate in both worlds are consistently in demand. This is the section I'm most determined to include, because the myth that stylized work is somehow simpler than realistic work is persistent, damaging, and wrong. Here's the truth. Stylized 3D is not easier than realistic 3D. It is differently harder. Photorealism has a reference. The real world tells you when something is wrong. The light on a photorealistic surface either matches how light behaves on that material in the real world, or it doesn't. You can look at reality and check. Stylized work has no external reference. You're making every single decision from scratch. What rules govern this world? What does light do in this aesthetic? How do shadows work? How simplified is simplified enough? What level of detail is right for this style? These are questions that have no objective answer. Only a stylistic answer that you have to invent, be consistent with, and justify through your creative vision. The surface can look simple. The thinking behind it is deeply complex. There's a reason the most beloved stylized games, Hollow Knight, Hades' Cuphead, feel utterly coherent from any angle, in any situation, at any moment. That coherence is the result of artists who understood every rule of the visual world they were creating and applied those rules with complete consistency. That's not less skill than photorealism requires. It's a different form of the same level of skill, often a harder one because you can't borrow the rules from reality. You have to build them yourself. The commercial implication of this is important. Stylized 3D artists who understand this, who approach their work with the sophistication it requires rather than the simplicity people assume it represents, can and should charge rates that reflect that sophistication. The stylized is easier, so it should cost less. Assumption is one that benefits clients and hurts artists, and it's an assumption that informed artists should actively push back against. Let me tell you specifically what separates the stylized 3D artists who are genuinely thriving from the ones who are struggling despite strong technical skills. Aesthetic consistency. The ability to make 100 assets and have them all look like they belong in the same world. This is harder than it sounds. It requires developing and then rigorously applying a set of visual rules that govern everything in the project. Color, form, edge treatment, texture approach, lighting behavior. Strong stylized artists can articulate what these rules are. They didn't develop them accidentally. Shape design and silhouette thinking. When you remove photorealistic texture and material detail, form becomes everything. The shapes that make up an object and how readable those shapes are at any viewing distance carry more of the visual communication than they do in realistic work. The best stylized artists think about silhouettes with the same precision that traditional character designers do. This is a skill that comes from studying design, illustration, and traditional art alongside 3D technique. In photorealistic work, color follows physical reality reasonably closely. In stylized work, color is a narrative and emotional tool that you have explicit control over. The best stylized 3D artists understand color theory deeply enough to use it deliberately, to make emotional choices about what color does in a given scene rather than simply approximating what color does in the real world. Knowing the rules before breaking them. The stylized artists I most admire all share this quality. They understand anatomy, perspective, proportion, and physical behavior completely, and they break those rules deliberately for specific effects with complete awareness of what they're doing and why. The rule breaking is informed. That's what makes it look intentional rather than accidental. Now, something I want to flag for the artists who are genuinely excited by this direction and want to start building toward it. The commercial opportunity in stylized 3D is real. The points I've made about visual saturation and brand appetite in the indie game market are true, and they represent actual client budgets. But here's what I've noticed about artists who try to enter this space and struggle despite having genuine interest and developing technical skills. They approach stylized 3D the way they'd approach learning a software tool. They look for the settings, the workflow, the technique. They want to know how to make something look flat-shaded, or how to achieve the Hades lighting style, or how to get the Cuphead animation approach. And the technique is learnable. But technique is not where the real skill lives in stylized work. The real skill lives somewhere else, in a kind of visual fluency that comes from a specific type of study that most 3D artists have never done. It comes from deep engagement with illustration, graphic design, traditional animation, and visual art. From developing genuine opinions about why certain color palettes feel right. From building a visual library in your head that goes beyond what good 3D looks like and extends into what good design looks like. The stylized 3D artists whose work genuinely stops you, who have a point of view that's recognizably theirs, almost always have this background. Not necessarily formal training in it, but genuine engagement with visual culture beyond 3D specifically. That's the thing I want to go deeper on in the next video. How to actually develop the visual sensibility that makes stylized 3D work genuinely distinctive rather than just technically stylized. So, is low poly art dead? No, but it did something more interesting than just survive. It evolved from a technical limitation into a deliberate aesthetic voice. And that evolution, combined with visual saturation in the realistic 3D market, brand appetite for warmth and distinctiveness, game design thinking about longevity, and the cultural normalization of stylized work as premium, has created a genuine, growing market for artists who do this well. The demand is in games, in mobile and casual specifically, in brand and marketing content, in children's media and education, and in motion graphics where stylized 3D blends with motion design. The skill is not easier than photorealism. It's differently harder. And the artists who understand that, and price and present their work accordingly, are in the strongest position. Subscribe if this kind of market analysis, combined with the honest craft conversation, is what you come here for. Hit the bell for the next video because the visual sensibility development conversation is the piece that actually makes this career direction work long-term rather than just technically. Drop a comment. Are you a stylized artist, a photorealism artist, or somewhere in between? And do you feel like you've been undervaluing stylized work? I read every single one. I'll see you in the next one.